All right, I'm back.
Cool, cool, cool. All right. Yeah, let's have some fun. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the 2 Degrees Podcast, brought to you by the Play On Foundation. Today's guest, I had the pleasure of getting in touch with him through my publicist at the time, and he did a whole bunch of amazing shots for my portfolio, and I've been following him ever since, and he's been absolutely killing the game. Based out of Vancouver, but he's been all over the West Coast and probably places that I don't even know. But everybody, we got Noah Asanias. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, thanks for having me today.
Yeah,
But yeah, you've been traveling.
yeah, driving all over the place. Trying to explore more of North America. Like I've always
Yeah,
loved
yeah,
traveling, but
yeah,
it's it just became tough over quarantine, so I figured this would be the best way to do it. So, and I'm
yeah, dude.
enjoying
If anything, I'm jealous of what you're doing.
it. um, I'm pretty sure like if I had half the photography skills that you have, I probably have so many awesome pictures. But other than
Wow,
like,
I'm I'm
I
sure you
have
have
to,
plenty.
I have to settle with like Instagram filters and shit.
Hey,
But
man, sometimes that works.
yeah, but when you just stepped out real quick, I was trying to take a look at your shelf behind you. That's a fucking crazy little
Oh,
display you got.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It is. It is. It's my gear. Yeah, it's all for work. So
But
different camera,
there's
different
also
needs. So
something to mention about how you keep things as well. Like for me, the way I keep my camera equipment when I do self tapes is I just shove it in a bag and I put it underneath the bed, you know? So it's like just seeing the way it's displayed there, like it's very intentional. And I go into that. Like what's the significance with each particular lens that you have up there? Because I'm sure you also have some stuff that are not up there as well.
yeah. So what here is usually just my own work gear. So I was saying different shoot, different camera needs. So there are shoots that sorry, there are shoots that requires I don't know if you're familiar with it with 35 millimeter sensor, for example. But there are also shoots like especially big commercial jobs that requires a bigger sensor, like medium format camera, like the one in here. I am personally addicted to film cameras, so most that you see, well, are they here?
Mhm.
They're actually not there. But most of the cameras, like the two big ones in here, and then the ones in that part are all film cameras. You see my fridge there as well with some film in it. Yeah, I've been addicted with film for maybe the last 3 years, and if possible, I'll only do film. But of course, that's not always viable to all clients as the expenses goes up when it comes to film photography. But yeah, that's kind of it. Some lenses up there and here. My philosophy for gear is if you use it a lot, buy it, and if
Mm,
you don't use it a lot, then just rent it because it's saves you more money that way. Yeah.
yeah. Now, what sparked this fascination for film?
Oh, I think it was. So I kind of had a film. My first film camera was actually this one right there. Um, it was an RZ67 Pro 2. I had it in 2016. I had it because a friend of mine sold it to me, and I didn't really know what the camera is capable of or why people like that camera.
Mm,
All I know it was sought after. It was sold to me for a good price, so I purchased it. Did some shots with it. I really enjoyed it, but never thought that I'll use it for work until 2019, I think, or 2020, when a friend of mine got me back into film by showing me how to develop film, and then pandemic happens. So it just kind of works perfectly because I have nothing to do, and I didn't want to come out of what we thought. I think everybody at the time thought COVID was just going to be here for maybe 3 months, six the most.
yeah.
Sorry. But my philosophy at the time is I didn't want to come out of COVID without learning any new skill. So
Did
that's
you air
when I think
quote
what
COVID?
yeah, well, what is it right now, right? We don't
Yeah,
know.
fair.
Um, yeah, yeah, or when it's gonna end. That's my
Hmm.
haircut. Yeah, we are still in COVID, but we're not. So I mean, in BC at least,
Yeah.
the restriction here has been lifted. So we honestly don't know what's happening. I don't think anybody knows what's happening. Anyway, going back to film photography, that's what sparks it. It's during that time where I couldn't work or nobody can work,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just wanted to grow to myself in whatever avenue that might be, and I found film photography and been addicted with that ever since.
Do you also have like a dark room at your studio as well, or where do you do your developing?
No, so I used to develop my own in the bathroom of my of the studio or at home, but the problem is developing color is really hard.
Hmm.
So I started sending it to labs. I used to send my roles in a local lab here in Vancouver, but I find that they can't really get the color that I want. As you probably know, I'm very specific with how I shoot and especially with the colors and how things are edited. So I found this lab in New York where I started sending my film rolls.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I sent it there. They scan it. They work with me in my process and the color tones that I want, and now they know how I want my image to be processed and scanned. And yeah, it's just been smooth sailing ever since then. And the price is not that much different compared to
Yeah.
local developers here. Yeah.
Before you started sending it off to labs to get developed, what were some of the things that you were facing when it came to trying trial and error?
With developing or with photography, with film
With the
photography.
developing part.
Oh, okay. So just from home. So let's start from home, I guess, and then from the local stores.
Mm.
From home, when it comes to black and white, it's pretty easy. For me, it's more time consuming. That's the problem why I'm not developing black and white either.
Mm.
When it comes to color, it's really hard to do it at home because I can't get the consistency of the temperature. And I remember in the beginning, I was wasting maybe like 10, 20 rolls just trying to get the science of it.
Yeah.
I don't have the machine to maintain a certain temperature that's needed. Older friends of mine have created a DIY way to do it, and they seem to be doing pretty well.
Mm.
I bought scanners. I went nuts in film. I bought my own scanner. I went everything that I need for developing and all. Like I stack up my fridge for film, but again I couldn't get the right consistency, and my scanner is not as good for commercial job.
Mm.
And the way I shoot now, my perspective and any shoots that I do is I treat it as if it's a big ad that I'm doing or it's a big campaign that I'm doing. And that's been my approach. So for me, if I do any shoots and then the final image is not as good as what it would be in a commercial job because I develop it at home or a local lab here develop it, and the colors are not right, then it's a waste of money for me. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of like a decision why I went to New York.
Yeah.
And for local labs here, they're great price wise. Locally, the problem is there's one lab, for example, that I used to go to. They always scratch my film, so when I scan it, it show the marks show, so it takes more time for me to edit. Another lab here lost a few of my rolls while
Oh.
while I dropped it off, so that's not good. And
Mm.
then there's one more lab here that I like it, but they just can get the color as good as the one in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I found
And
them. I know
then
there's probably a bunch of other ones, but I just didn't try it.
were
But
you
yeah,
all self-taught then in terms of figuring out how to go about developing it to your standard, or did somebody teach you?
so it's film is kind of interesting because my background is more in digital photography, but when it comes to colors, it's pretty similar.
Hmm.
I don't know the processing side, the developing side, but I know the scanning side because I've been scanning my own rolls. Yeah, I find that digital and film are not, when it comes to post processing, are not that far off to getting the colors. I'm not particularly sure how the lab in New York that I'm sending it to gets the color that I want.
Hmm.
If I'm being honest, when they
Yeah.
send it to me, it's already done. And that's another thing I like about film photography is there's almost no retouching that's needed. Once you shot it, it's done.
Hmm.
When I get the files back, so my clients that chose to shoot film actually gets more images because I just send everything to them because I'm pretty confident that those are good images that doesn't need retouching. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to start from the beginning now of how photography became your art or your passion.
Oh, geez, how did it start? So I was an art director for about 4 years in Asia. I went to Vancouver for my sister's wedding, and while I was here, I wanted to stay in Vancouver, and for me to stay, I needed to go to school.
Hmm.
And at the time, I happened to met this photographer, awesome photographer that I really look up to, that I'm still friends with. Um, and I asked him if I can shadow him for the 2 weeks left that I have in Vancouver. So he let me shadow him for maybe 5 days. And during my time, I realized how I can make a living doing photography, because in where I'm from, Philippines, it's really hard. I don't know any photographer personally that makes a living doing photography. Like the
Mhm.
only photography that I knew growing up is the people, because I grew up in the countryside. The photographers that come on a wedding, they take pictures, develop the film later on, and then they sell it outside the wedding venue, and people would just buy it for, I don't know, maybe 25 pesos at the time, which is about a dollar Canadian, one Canadian dollar.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what the photographer that I grew up with. So the perspective of like making a living doing photography was very foreign to me
Hmm.
until I met this guy, and then during that time I met another photographer, or photographer student that was going to a certain school. So I asked him about more information about it, and then I went there, checked their demo class, and I enrolled and I got accepted. And then yeah, the rest is just kind of history. I went fully in that route. Left my job in Philippines as a art director, and then I want to say it just worked out, but there's definitely a lot of work. But I think I want it hard enough for me to really pursue it head on without, I guess, holding back to it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no. What were some of the beginning trials? So to come to Canada and then to invest all of your time and energy specifically into growing a photography business. As like all businesses, there's pros and cons, and there's a lot of hurdles that need to be overcome in order for your business to be fruitful. Specifically in photography, though, what were some of the hiccups or roadblocks that you faced trying to establish yourself?
A big one for me in the beginning is work permit, because I'm not Canadian.
Hmm.
I didn't have the work permit in the early stage of my career until I started working for a fashion brand in Vancouver that kind of got that sponsored, and then eventually I got married, so so the work permit wasn't a problem anymore. Aside from that is probably capital. Like I didn't have when I started my studio. I only had about $3,000, I think, at the time, and then with one camera and one lens. So I didn't know where I'm gonna head. Do I need to buy lights right away or not? I didn't have enough money in my credit card to put a deposit when I rent. So really capital. So my advice for anyone that wanted to jump into photography is find a day job, or at least a part-time job or a side hustle. Because
Hmm.
in the first maybe 2 years of your photography journey, you're probably not gonna make enough for a living. And then after that, you're probably just make enough, but you have to be really frugal and be strategic in how you spend your money. Like I didn't really go out in Vancouver or party or eat out except for lunch. At the time, I was only eating. There's this place where I can get two slices of pizza and a pop for, I believe it was $5, I think. And that was my lunch every single day for at least 2 years. Now I hate pizza, but yeah, it got me. It got me through. So if
Yeah,
anything, I should thank whoever was selling that pizza
yeah,
at the
no,
time. But yeah, I
that's.
I would say be wise in how you spend your money. So yeah.
Did you ever have a time where you thought that you bit off something that was too big for you to chew?
Oh, all the time,
Hmm.
all the time. I would accept bookings that are way too big for me. But
Could you give
but for
examples
some
of
reason,
what was out of your realm back then?
um, let's go practical. For
Hmm.
example, there's this particular brand of light that I think most photographers use and want these days. And at the time, I couldn't afford it, or I can afford it, but probably won't be able to pay rent.
Mm.
So anyway, for me to, I still bite the bullet and did it, and then because I was really, so this is one thing that I believe about for anybody. I mean, sorry, I'm gonna digress a little bit. I meet a lot of aspiring photographers, for example, or artists per se, that wanted to pursue their passion, but they're too afraid to do it
Mm.
because of their steady job, because of the paycheck that they get regularly.
Yeah.
And I agree, do not quit your day job if you can, be wise about it. But sometimes there's also some people that I think needs to just do it. Because once you have no other choice, you'll make it work. And that's kind of what happened to me with this lights, for example. I bought it, it was about 6 grand, I think, at the time, and 6 or 5 or 6 grand. I didn't have much money at the time, but because I was desperate and I need to make it work, or else I won't be able to pay my rent or my studio rent, then I got to make it work, and it worked. And then
Mm.
aside from that, there are, I can't mention jobs or what it is exactly,
Yeah.
but there was a job a few years ago that I was asked if I can do it, and I didn't even know what how much I should be charging.
Mm.
All I know is I can charge a lot. So I gave them the quote, and then luckily enough, my client was kind enough to respond to me saying like, "That's too low. Increase,
Wow.
like you can go higher than that." Yeah, so I was very fortunate to be surrounded by people that are like that. So I did increase my price to what it's supposed to be. It was during the pandemic where I couldn't bring any assistant, but I still said yes to it. But I knew that that project is going to be hard
Mm.
because it's a multi-light setup. I didn't have enough lighting at the time. And again, it was during the pandemic. There wasn't, the rental store cannot keep up with the equipment that I needed. But yeah, but I made it work. I borrowed a few lights from friends. I purchased a few lights from Craigslist and Marketplace, and it worked out. And then ever since then, yeah. But if I said no to it, if I said that it was too big for me, then I definitely wouldn't have gotten that chance. And I'm pretty sure I would still not be shooting for them.
Wow. Well, congrats with that. Like that's a big thing too when it comes to the art of it, where it's like you gotta just take chances.
Yeah.
Everything about being an artist is about chances. And
Oh man.
my
Yeah.
my quest,
Absolutely.
my hope, and my desire in talking with like all the artists that I bring on here is to figure out some kind of formula. Like there has to be something that, even though luck is still involved, that it wouldn't include that much luck.
Yeah.
Where
Something that can be replicated.
yeah,
Interesting.
right. Where it's like more like going to school and getting your degree and having a step-by-step process to get, climb the workforce ladder, if you will, where it's like, what does the artist ladder look like? How does that work out?
Huh.
But then
Yeah.
it's just all luck, man. You just got to be willing to climb the ladder, and hopefully the step that you're going to go on to next is the step that you're looking for. And there's no
Yeah.
labels, there's no street signs, there's nothing. It's just all luck, but you just
Yeah.
got to climb the ladder.
There's one thing that I did that I always had. Looking back now, I think this helped a lot, and like whoever's listening, I hope this helps as well. There was a time when I was really new in photography and was starting out my business. I was coming as an immigrant and didn't have any contacts in Vancouver, so I didn't know who to reach out to, what brands are in town, and who's who. But what I did is every week I would meet two new people that I haven't met before, or maybe have just chatted by passing, or maybe we're in the same job but we didn't really get to know each other.
Hmm.
So every week I made sure to meet two people. I would contact them through LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, whatever medium that might be. And usually when I meet with them, we don't talk about business. We just talk about life in general, what they do. But it normally goes through, I think naturally it would just flow through work because of the question, what do you do? What's keeping you busy? What are the projects you're working on at the moment? So it naturally goes there. And then through that, I actually met a lot of interesting people and people that I still work with up till today. Some of them are my clients. Some of them have referred me to to another client. Some of them are people that helped me on shoots, my assistants, for example. And this is something that I still do, although I don't do the two new people per week anymore. I would probably do at least one a month that I would meet. I think it's just a healthy practice as well, and gives you a perspective on how other people's lives are. I think sometimes we can be jaded into our lifestyle and think that that's the only thing that there is in the world. And meeting a different people with different walks of life as well, I think it could be really helpful. But yeah, that might be one of the formula. It's just meeting new people every so often.
Where did you learn that? Did you hear that from somebody? Go out and meet new people, or did you just come up with this on your own?
I just did it my own. One thing as well that's a common mistake with a lot of, I think, artists and people in general is when we do our network. I hate the term network, but when we do our networking, people always ask for a favor. I think networking is offering help more than asking for help. It's very rare, not and maybe it's my ego, but it's very rare for me to ask for a favor unless I really need to. But I always tell to people, whatever you need, let me know if I can help with anything, and I mean it by heart when I offer it. Yeah, there's this principle that I read. I forgot what book it is. It's called Two Job in a Punch. So you do two things for others, and then you ask one after in return. And it sounds very manipulative, but if you look at the terms of like helping instead of receiving, a lot of the people that I become close with are people that help me.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm biased that way. At least from my perspective, I saw that they cared. And my policy for people that I hire in a job, for example, is I'd rather hire someone that I like more than someone who's very talented but I don't like instead.
Yeah.
And I think that goes to saying and why that mentality for networking works better than the old school way of giving your business card and saying like, hey, let's work together. It's like,
yeah,
but why are we going to work together?
Yeah.
So,
Establishing yourself as useful for sure. No,
yeah.
I that was very eloquently put. No, I like that. And moving forward, like I'm gonna carry that where it's like favors are meant to be given, not asked.
Yeah.
No, I really like that.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
No.
So you mentioned.
By the way, sorry, where in Canada are you right now? Where are you? Where in Canada are you at the moment?
I'm in San Francisco right now.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
dude.
So one thing about
Jealous.
this podcast, with the title of it, 2 Degrees. So I built the truck wrong, where I put a lot of the weight on the passenger side, so the truck's tilted at 2 degrees, but at the same time, I'm also escaping the 2-degree weather that's at home. So that's the big thing with this. Is like I'm not coming back until it warms up. So hopefully like the end of next month. But other than that, I'm just kind of enjoying the sun and enjoying the keeping my tan.
Oh, dude,
I don't want to lose my tan.
100%. Yeah. And I bet you tan fast as well.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
It's the islands.
Filipino skin, bro. Yeah.
I'm blessed with this.
Yeah.
But speaking of the Philippines, you brought up a point where it's like you didn't really see photography as being like a day job, as worthy of making a living off of. What was it then coming to Canada that kind of gave you that push to say, yeah, this might actually be worth investing all of my time into?
I don't know what it is about Canada. I think for me, it's if I like, and this is just my personality. If I like something, I like it bad, and I'm gonna do everything in my power to get it. And it sometimes it's to my own detriment because it's something that that it's not working, but I try to keep making it work. And I'm very stubborn that way. It's hard to make me quit what I wanted. Yeah, I think that's
if you were still in the Philippines, then would you have still tried to pursue photography?
Probably not. One thing about me as an artist is I'm very practical. I how would I say it without sounding arrogant? I think I'm pretty business savvy as an artist. Like I just I was talking to to another photographer friend just a few hours ago, and I was telling her this person that there's kind of like two paths being a photographer. One is you take the route that is focused on your style. That you keep shooting your style until a client or a potential brand sees you and then hire you for that style. There also the other route, which I did, which was what I call a sellout, which just doesn't sound good, but that's honestly what I did.
Hmm.
I shot what I know the client wants, and then look. So and this is one of the reasons why my work is very diverse, which is also to my own detriment now, because I want to specialize in something, but then I'm seen as this chameleon who can shoot everything. While
Hmm.
it works for other client, it doesn't work for the high end clientele that I want. But yeah, so I forgot what I was saying. But anyway, being business savvy that way. So for me, I look at what's the landscape of the industry that I'm around. How do I get those clients? What are the style photography wise that works with this particular demographic? And then where is this demographic hanging out? Where can I find them? There's a marketing term that we use back in advertising. I'm pretty sure they still use this in marketing these days. It's called customer journey map. So customer journey map is understanding your customer from and what they think from the very beginning, from the process of why are they looking for your service, where do they go when they're looking for your service, what do they feel when they have your service, and then what do they do after they purchase your service. So all of that. So for example, for headshot is a different approach compared to what I do now, which is a gallery shoot. It's a gallery shoot is different approach when it comes to spec shoots, like the shoot that we did. Those are different marketing types. But the difficulty for doing that as a photographer is you want to be identified as for a particular niche.
Hmm.
But also keep in mind that for photographers, at least, you don't have to upload all the work that you're doing. Like you probably, I don't know if you noticed in my Instagram, like I've deleted my images multiple times because
Yeah.
I like my work, and then after a while it's like, oh, I actually don't want to attract this client anymore, so I would wipe it down and then start again. And I probably would keep doing this until I get tired of doing it. I don't know, but yeah,
So then
yeah,
you kind of phrased it in a sense where this whole, like, it's a detriment to shoot for the client versus to shoot for yourself, but you still sound as if, you also still want to shoot in the style that you want to do. So what's hindering that now that you've
yeah.
started shooting for the client?
Oh man, that's a good question. So when you, in the past, when I shoot for a client, it's the client that dictates what the look would be.
Okay.
And this is something that I changed. And I think I'm able to change it now because I've hopefully gained the respect of the industry already as an
Mhm.
artist. So now when a client comes to me, I ask them like, where is, for example, the shoot that we did, I would ask them now, where is the image gonna go? And would you be open to me creating the mood board instead of the publicist or the artist creating the mood board? And in that way, I can cater it more. For example, someone says like it's going to, let's say, Sean magazine or Vogue or whatever that might be. My answer would be like, can I create a mood board that it goes with the style that they want?
Hmm.
But the style that they want, what it actually means is the style that I want, the style that I want to be pursuing. And I think talking about style is the hardest thing for any artist to know what it is, because some people might see what your style is, but it's always hard to see what, at least for me, what my style is. People would say like, oh, I can tell if it's your work.
Hmm.
And it's like, I can't. And for example, in photography, there's this like a few, I think it's 4 qualities of style, but I can't remember what those 4 are. But one is, it's in studio or outside. I like to shoot both. Um, I don't like to be boxed in and just shooting studio, for example. But when you go to a higher caliber clients, for example, if you want to shoot for Gucci, you're only seen as one or the other. But how do you position yourself now as both? And I think, sorry, man, I'm talking about all about photography. I'm obsessed with
No.
photography.
This is what
Clearly,
it's about. This is amazing. Keep going, please.
yeah. So in what I was talking oh crap, I completely lost it.
You're
Anyway,
talking about
in
the looks
style.
and being an indoor outdoor.
Oh yeah, that's right. So I think, and this is just my opinion, there's a new wave of photographers that are coming that is not restricted by certain parameters, like are you an indoor or an outdoor photographer.
Hmm.
I kind of been seeing a few really famous photographers already that are doing this. They can be outdoor, they can be indoor, where the style translates more than the technical aspect. It's the mood, it's how they see the story, it's how they see the world and how they photograph it. It's what they imagine that other people don't see, I think. And that could translate in a lot of different things beyond the technical aspect. Is it studio? Is it the lighting? Is it the storytelling? But yeah, beyond that, one of the photographers that I really been in love with his work, there's two of them. One is Greg Williams, for example, whose work is kind of all over the place as well. He does set stills, he does events. Like he's the one who shoots for Oscars, for example. But then he also do portrait studios, and he also do gallery and then campaign for Rolex, for example. The other another photographer that I really like is Blackland Bailey, for example. He does it all. He does studio, he does location, he does shoot where it's just him and the model. Another big one is Peter Lindbergh, although Peter Lindbergh has a very particular style because of his black and white work. But his work is not just black and white. He did a lot of shoots that are colored. But his approach and what attracts him in a certain shots. A friend of mine and I were chatting in 2020 about this because I used to take a lot of photos. In one session, I probably have, I don't know, 4 hour shoot, I probably have 1,000 shots, and that changed as I mature in photography. But at the time, I was chatting to a friend of mine, and he said like, it's not the number of shots that we take; it's our eye for picking which ones are good ones. And I was like, that's actually really, I never heard that before. But like what, like, because you and I, for example, I might pick one shot that I like, but you might pick the other.
Yeah.
And then the reason, the why behind it is might be very different, but the why behind it is what makes us the artist. And I think that's what the new wave of photographers that are coming. It's we're not, anyway, we're not boxed into certain classifications anymore. I think we are beyond that now, but that's just my assumption. So
Fair. No,
art
I think,
directors and photo editors might not see it the same, but yeah.
yeah, no, like art is subjective. So even if you have like an art director who has a very strict mindset of what it should be, art the following week can completely change. And it's up to him to either him or her to keep up or to, double down on
Yeah.
what they believe art is. Yeah. So I'm curious then, where with the shoot that you did with me, was that your mood board then?
No, it wasn't.
So I'm curious then, what would you have wanted to do, or what vision would you have wanted?
Yeah, I think at the time I was very new in photography, but I was really happy with it. But if we were to do it again, I think I would have done it with a lot smaller team and a lot more intimate.
Mhm.
I what attracts me in photography right now is the honest part of photography where you're actually photographing the person, and the photographer is more of a participant than an observer. So the problem with studio, and I this can be done in studio as well or outside, but one of the things that studio does, as much as I love it, and man, I'm hurting my own business by saying this because I'm known as a studio photographer. The problem sometimes with studio is you are in this, you can't really move freely because of there's hair, there's a glam team, there's hair, there's makeup, there's a stylist. You have to be a certain way for the certain look.
Mhm.
And that works with some jobs, especially for editorials and campaigns. But I love this idea of an honest photography when maybe this in a perfect world, this is how I would like it to go. We have a glam team. We go for a walk, for example, and I photograph it as we hang out. My dream client is something that I would shoot 24 hours and then just see what we can come up with. And I know not everybody's down for that, and it's a little crazy as well for me to do, but that's my dream job. Like, hang out with this person, take some snaps. I actually have this client that I'm really excited about that's happening on June. It's for their wedding, and my wife's kind of laughing at this because I haven't shot I hate wedding. I just hate shooting it. I've done it maybe 3 times, and it's not for me. I
Yeah.
admire photographers that can do it.
Yeah.
But this client phoned me. He's an art director. I was like, hey, Noah, like this is so and so. I would like to hire you for my wedding. And my response was like, have you seen my work? Like there's no events in there. And then anyway, he said, yeah, I'm very familiar with your work, but I want you to do this because you're able to capture the essence of a person.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I said, okay, and then let's keep chatting. So he said, like, all I want is for you to follow me and my fiance during the whole day. You're only focused on us. You're not. There's other photographers that are gonna worry about the formalities of the photo shoot, but you're only focused on us. And as long as I can just get 3 images from you that I can print, I'm happy.
Wow.
And as yeah, and he wants that to be what I was saying, kind of like a slice of life or an honest photography. It's that moment, for example, where there's all this crowd in the reception, for example, and this is
Mhm.
just I'm just making things up, and then you see the bride sitting on the floor. So behind all this chaos that was happening, there's that serenity in it.
Yeah.
So kind of capturing that, or the moment where, let's say after their wedding, as they go home, we stop by McDonald's and they're having a burger and fries at the side with their tuxedo and the wedding dress.
Yeah.
I think that is something that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Or me, for example, giving a high five to the bride and groom, and they're participating in the shot, or anything that they were engaging more with me. So instead of me becoming someone who's just, for lack of a better word, stealing or capturing the moment, I'm there as a part of that. And I think
Yeah.
it's funny because I talked to you about this. This is I chatted with this for this wedding last Saturday, and today I was meeting with a big brand to hopefully shoot the campaign. And then he was saying the same thing to me, like, I want an honest approach to photography, but this is a fashion brand, so it's like, oh my gosh, like
Mm.
this is great. So
Mm.
we're not only selling the clothes now, we're selling the experience of what it's like to live in this lifestyle, for example. And it's one of the reasons why this ad from All Saints that I really like, that came out in 2019 or 2018, where the story of the ad is this group of young people were going on a road trip, and they were kind of like young and free. And for example, there was a shot where the girl was putting her head out of the car and the wind was just blowing her hair. They're not focused on the clothes, but they're focused on that moment. And yes, it wasn't real, but well, you can argue that it's real. I would say it's real.
Yeah.
It was created, but it was real
Yeah.
to capture that shot. Anyway, yeah, I can talk on and on and on and on about that. And this is something as well that I'm
Is
still
that a
practicing.
coin? Is
So,
that a term that you coined then? Honest photography? Is that a
um,
phrase that's already in the industry?
I I personally think I just it's funny because just the conversation that I'm having in the last few days, I haven't heard anyone say it.
Neither have
So
I. Yeah.
maybe it's my own term. Yeah, I my actual name for it is it's a slice of life.
Hmm.
It's a part of yeah, I don't know what I would call it, but because an honest photography can be a lot of things, but a slice of
Yeah.
life, I think, is that memory that you have that everybody can relate to. For example, um, I like to use this in a shoot. I am to the town. Like, imagine you are sitting in the backseat of the car and you have this funny, cute memory of someone you love.
Mhm.
It just kind of makes you smile a little bit. Like if you see that in, for example, a shot of that in video, you know what that felt like.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so things like that, and it's either you feel like you're a participant in a way because you were watching, but the person is okay with you watching
Mhm.
while it's happening. But yeah, anyway.
I like that, man. I'm a fan of that. So then, would you say then that is your hope to be your style? So, like how you're saying how, um, when people come up to you and say that they recognize that it's your work, but you don't get it because you're shooting for the client and not really for yourself, is the honest photography or the slice of life than what you hope to be noticed for in the future?
Um, I honestly still don't know. So
Hmm.
recently, I just found out what my style is, and I'm gonna digress to this one so I can answer what your question
Yeah.
is. Um, since December, I've been kind of like panicking because all this styles like, oh, like holy crap, what is my style? And until recently, when my wife and I were sitting at home, and I was kind of depressed because I couldn't figure out what my style is, and everybody's telling me what to do. And then I was looking at these images that I collected that I love. And my wife knows my love for the Renaissance paintings, portraits, and Greek sculpture. And then while I was looking at these images, my wife said, like, that's your style. I've always loved the Renaissance painting and sculpture, and you can see it in both my paid work that I don't like and my personal project. And I was like, oh, so the part of the honest photography that ties with it is, at least this is what I've heard from people, at least that hired me for portraits, is it's because I was able to capture the essence of that person in that one frame. So that kind of translates to the honest photography that I was saying, because it was them, even though they were wearing something that they probably would not be wearing normally, it's still them that I captured.
Yeah.
Um, a really great photographer example for this one is Anna Leibovitz. Anna Leibovitz puts her subject in a very fantasy-like setup with wardrobe and hair makeup. But when she photographed Oprah, for example, you can tell that it's Oprah. Oprah's not pretending to be someone else.
Mm.
She's photographing Oprah in a different setup. And this is something that I didn't realize until a photographer mentor of mine told me about this. Yeah, and I think from there it becomes a lot more clear. But right now, where I am at, to answer your question directly, is yes, I'm hoping to be known more for that honest photography, the person who was able to capture the essence of the person, whether that is created or in their natural state.
Mm. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's beautiful too, because and even when it comes to headshots, especially where I think that's one thing that I've learned to look for when seeking out a headshot photographer is like how do they take their pictures? What's their process of it? And because a lot of headshot photographers they just try to get what they imagine in their frame versus I've worked with headshot photographers who direct me in a way that captures me in a particular moment where it's
Yeah.
like as simple as okay, um your novice headshot photographer would be like, okay, look professional. But then you'd have your other headshot photographers like, all right, so you're in a meeting, you're about to close a deal. This is the
Yeah.
price point that you're going to secure. But then at the same time, you want to tell this person with your eyes that you deserve more. And it's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
That's and so it just makes you explore more of a situation, but then as well as now you're
Yeah.
thinking and you're outside of your head and now you're bringing yourself into it. So yeah, capturing
Mhm.
the essence. I love that. And
Yeah, I think that's very important when you're photographing actors. In my experience, I get photographed a lot of actors, from like Jamie Dornan, for example, to someone who's really new in the industry. And I've one of the tricks that I always pull under my sleeves is creating situations to put them in.
hmm,
And a lot of my jobs now, I probably have like, I'm lucky to have 15 minutes or 10 minutes with the talent. For the most part, they're probably there for 5 minutes max, and then they're gone.
yeah.
So how before my, and I still love this. I love it when there's a lot of time, because I have a lot of time to create my rapport and relationship with the talent. But unfortunately, these days we don't have that luxury anymore, especially with the pandemic happening. So now, how do you create that moment of photographing somebody and making them comfortable or look comfortable, even if they don't know you? And
Hmm.
my trick has always been put them in, give, they're actors, they are actors, they can act, give them what they're used to.
Make us act. Yeah.
Um, yes. Make
No,
them,
that's great.
make you actors work, right? So
Um, so now going back. where your art director days, what got you
Yeah.
into that position? Did you go to school for it? Why did you go to school for what you went to school for? And what was it like in the household where it's like, was art encouraged?
Oh man, that's a funny way how I led there. So in my household, as Asian Filipino Islander, most of my family are in the medical field, but I was always been they've encouraged me to go into arts.
Mm. Oh,
It's or business. Yeah,
that's,
it's
that's two different
I
things.
think the reason, dude, I think the reason for it is when I was in high school, I was failing science, and I went to special science high.
Hmm.
So I was pretty good at chemistry. I was bad at physics, for example, or
Okay.
biology or anatomy. I faint on bloods. I still do. Freaks me out. Oh man, one time I was shooting a little digress. For this is a long time ago, I was shooting for a makeup school here, and I didn't know they were doing cosmetics.
Wow.
And then when the model came, it was bloody and it looks real. And I kid you not, I threw up. I asked my assistant, "Hey, can you shoot it for me? I can't do it." Anyway,
Wow.
moving forward to the question. So it wasn't encouraged, but it wasn't also discouraged. I think if I were to lean between the two, I would go more in the encouraged part.
Hmm.
But the funny part is when I went to University of Korea, so I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts major in advertising degree. When I so man, I wasn't the smartest kid growing up. So my dad and my eldest sister prescribed that I go take this exam for university. So I took it. I fortunately passed. And 2 weeks in so the beginning of the school, after 2 weeks of being in the school, I asked our professors, like, how come we keep buying like pencils and papers, basically art supplies? And then the instructor kind of looked puzzled at me. And then I realized that what it was advertising. It was fine arts advertising, not business advertising. Because in my head, I was doing business advertising. Anyway, in Philippines, it's kind of looked down upon if you quit or if you do a gap year, because then you're old and then you're not finished school yet. So I just keep pushing through with it. Eventually, I got decent with it, and then I can draw, but I'm not good at drawing.
Hmm.
So first year, second year was very traditional art where we do oil painting and all. We didn't really excel in it, but I didn't want to quit. When I get to third year, it's more about marketing and then the digital side of it, and then same thing with fourth year, and that's when I really found my passion. That I realized that I was pretty good at branding and marketing. And then after that, I was mentored by one of what we call the pillars of advertising in Philippines, and he kind of connected me with the right people, and I started working for major agencies, not just in Asia, they're international agencies. And then yeah, I think it just kind of snowballed from there. But to answer the question is, I didn't know what I was doing. I just didn't want to quit. Again, going back to
Sure.
I'm stubborn. When I say I like something, I would keep doing it until I guess it's the end of I reach the wall. But I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure I reach a lot of wall, and I just keep going.
That's fascinating now,
Yeah,
because you brought up over the quarantine, you trying to find your style, you found yourself in a depression where I find when you're pursuing something that you don't really feel passionate about, but you just keep going, I feel there's a level of depression that also can
mm,
come up from that. Where was your head at those times? Do you think that if you could have still kept it up till today, do you think that you would have ended up needing therapy by now? Where was your head at back then
yeah.
while you're drilling yourself to just keep going forward, but in a direction that you really
Yeah.
didn't want to be in?
Well, the thing about me is my emotion changed. Like today, for example, right now, for example, I'm very happy. After this call, I might be very sad. Like it
I
changed
hope it's not
very
because of me.
drastic.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll let you know. If you see my Instagram disappear and all my social media, I'm definitely depressed.
My fault.
Um,
This
but yeah,
podcast has
so
fucked you up.
yeah, so it definitely like my so knowing that my emotions change a lot, and how I feel is very I'm a very emotional human being. So wait, what was the question again? I completely forgot. Or
Where
is
was
my
your
head
head
at?
at back then? Yeah.
I think for me, I would have kept going. Whatever happened, because the problem is not the business. The business part is great.
Hmm.
Like everything was flowing, money was great. I have time freedom and financial freedom, which I never thought I would have achieved in this age. But the satisfaction wasn't there. It just becomes like, okay, like now that I'm making this, like who am I as an artist? Like I could die right now and not make an impact, for example, or no one would ever talk about me when I pass away, not just as an artist but also as a human being. So that kind of I think got a lot to me. Like one of my fears growing up is I don't want to die, and then when I die, no one goes to my funeral because it means I haven't impacted anybody.
Yeah.
And I took that in everything I do as a human being. For example, that's why it's so important for us to know other people's journey and being able to meet people from different walks of life, because you develop empathy and understanding to why they are the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing with photography. For example, if business is just good, but there's no image of mine that I took that other aspiring photographers would talk about, or people would be inspired about this photo and they want to recreate it, then it's kind of no point of being a photographer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's what I was afraid of. I was afraid that yes, I'm good at this thing, but that's it. That there's no impact to anybody. Um, and that again, that is such an important part of my life. So, and that's the reason why I got depressed for it. But I'm pretty sure that I would have just kept going.
Hmm.
There's no reason for me to stop. If anything, I was thinking of maybe switching careers. And this like yes, I was at the point like, oh, maybe this is it for photography. Maybe it's time to explore something new again. And what that is, I don't know. Like I was thinking like, oh, maybe I don't know. Maybe I always wanted to have my own clothing line, so maybe I'll pursue that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. Maybe I'll go back to advertising. I don't know. But I think at the time I was thinking more of like maybe I'll become a director or a DP. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Do you still carry that weight of that fear of, if I die, nobody's gonna be at my funeral?
Um, Not so much that nobody's gonna be at my funeral, but I think now it's more like what legacy would I leave when I pass away?
Hmm. Fair. And what's your parents' take on this day job that you have now?
Oh, they've always been my parents, you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've always been very supportive with it. I remember when I told my dad like, hey, I think I'm gonna quit my job and pursue photography in Canada. The first thing he asked is, how can I help you?
Wow.
Yeah, and then
Were you
he
that
said like,
bad in
if
science?
I know, right? He's one thing he told me is if I do it, I should do it right.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I wouldn't definitely, aside from them giving birth to me, my parents, I definitely wouldn't be where I am without the support.
Yeah.
They, especially the first, like coming from Philippines, I remember when I went here, the Philippine peso is so bad. It's like 57 pesos to $1. Now it's about 30 pesos to $1. So I was so broke,
Yeah.
and they helped me out through transitioning to come here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And are you the first professional artist in your family then?
In my immediate family, yes.
Hmm.
And my apparently my grandpa's brother was also a photographer. Well, he was
Oh,
not as a profession, but he did photography.
yeah.
Um, he's the only one in my lineage, I think, that has a camera. Yeah,
Hmm.
I didn't have a camera until I was 21, I think.
Yeah.
18 or 21, something like that. It's my first time I ever hold a camera. Yeah, I never had it before. Because I mean, coming from Philippines, like film is just too expensive at the time,
Yeah.
and having a camera is more of a luxury. Like growing up, I didn't have a lot of pictures. I remember I was the only one in my siblings that didn't have a picture on the day that I was born.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, and
That's
so my sisters,
interesting. That's the start of an
oh,
autobiography for you right there.
that's right, that's right.
The
My sisters
photographer
always
without
make
the
fun of me
baby
that
picture.
Yeah, they always make fun of me that I was that my parents just found me from the ditch and adopted me. Because there wasn't any pictures, man, and I a part of me believed that when I was growing up. It's like, oh, it's probably true, but
Have you then, just because of the topic of that, where it's like, have you, because I know a whole bunch of photographers as well, where they also offer services for, I don't know what you call them, but when you like take pictures or have like a complete photo shoot for a baby. Have
newborn.
you, yeah, where it's like the baby's not even a week old, but then they already have a full
Yeah.
photo shoot happening. So it's like,
Oh, bro. Yeah.
have you started exploring that, where it's like this is actually a trauma inside you, where it's like I just want to take pictures of babies now because I don't
I know.
have baby pictures.
Yeah, yeah. No, dude, I'm afraid of babies, man. Like, I don't know how to handle them.
That's
Like,
so
I'm
funny.
so afraid that they're so fragile that I would break their arms or whatever. So yeah, nah. Dude, I wouldn't touch a newborn. Yeah,
That's so funny.
or would tell anybody to trust me with a newborn. So,
Just
what do I do with this?
keep the parent there and just like let them maneuver the baby into, and you just take the pictures. That's
I know. Just look
it.
at yeah. I'm fascinated. I actually have a one book here, my first ever photo book. It's just so funny. It's by Anna Giddens, which is a collection of baby photos. He's a newborn photographer.
Hmm.
Amazing work. It's just funny that's now the realizing that, oh yeah, I didn't have a baby photo. And the first photo book that I ever purchased was was newborn photography.
That's
Um,
you need therapy. You need to you, you need
I
to
do, I do, I do. If you know anyone that's good, let me know, please. So I'll go.
somebody that specializes in not having baby pictures.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man. So
Oh man, yeah, yeah,
now
yeah.
with that, where it's like one big thing too, when it I've because I tried to dabble in photography as well back in the day, and then with that I kind of like leaned more into videography, and then through videography I started meeting actors, and then that's how I kind of also pushed into that direction. But then the thing that I hated about photography, and what I hated about videography as well, and where now I'm happy to be at a point that I know, DPs who understand lighting and stuff like that. How did you develop your eye for lighting?
Ooh, good question. Aesthetic wise, without the technical aspect, I think it helped coming from a fine art background. Because when the reason, the very reason why I get accepted into a fine art school without me knowing how to draw is because they lost my drawing on my entrance exam.
No.
Dude, yes, it was pure luck. And then, and this is known. This like they told me about it. And then the funny part is on
What was
my
the drawing
grad.
then?
Sorry, go
What
ahead.
did you submit?
This there's I remember there's an IQ test and all that, so I did that, and then at the end is draw a mascot of a brand. And I was like, holy crap, like I didn't know what to do. So what I draw is sardines. Like let's draw a can with arms. And that's it. Like super lame. And then I saw my after that I saw my when we got in there on the first day, then they gave it back. I saw my classmates work and I was like, man, like I'm definitely the weakest link here. Anyway, on my graduation, they found it, but they never told me. On my graduation, they put my drawing inside my diploma. So when I got my diploma, I was like, what the heck is this paper? So I give it 2 seconds, and my computer is shutting down. No, oh there it is. Panic attack.
Still
Anyway,
here.
on my graduation, they slip it inside my diploma, and so when I found, I was just laughing at it. But what was the question again? See?
Did they tell, this was the question was about lighting. So but
Oh yes, that's right.
did they tell you though that where it's like this drawing was so bad, if we actually got it we would not have accepted you?
No, they didn't, but it was given.
Okay.
When
That's
I
so
when
funny.
I saw it, it looks like my drawing when I was in elementary school.
Maybe you
Like it
just
was
did so well on the IQ part.
maybe. I mean I doubt it. So if anything, maybe they lost my IQ test as well. Yeah, and they just
That's
never
so
said
funny.
anything because they legally can't decline me for their own fault.
I just had a thought where it's like maybe you were just there, you weren't actually a student, but because you were offering favors to do like, oh, I'll clean up after the class, and then they were just like, let's just keep him here. And
That's
then
right.
from there it
Yeah,
snowballed where
that's
it's
right.
like
That's right.
he's been here the whole year. We might as well just take him on as a
Yeah,
student.
we might as well give him a diploma after. So
But yeah,
yeah,
back to lighting.
maybe,
How did
maybe.
you develop your eye for lighting?
Yeah. So I never got good at drawing, but I was good at shading and coloring.
Hmm.
And when you're shading and coloring, you learn where the light is coming from. Especially shading, it's all lights and shadows, right? So I think that helped me a lot. And then when I went to photography school here, I already know that, well, in my head, I wanted to pursue fashion photography and portrait. And I think I just understand principles of lighting, for example, distance, size, power, um, relativity to the subject as well. I think I just understood that because, understood it faster, I guess, than anyone else in the class. But I did a lot of trial and error. Like I remember when I was new, I would maybe shoot 30 models in the weekend.
Huh.
And I would just practice. Yeah, I would just keep practicing lighting, and I'm still so obsessed with it that I actually developed this new lighting technique that I think no one has done yet, or maybe someone else in the world has done it, but I haven't seen
Hmm.
anyone done it yet. Where in 1 second my camera would be in burst mode, so it can take, let's say, 20 images, but 20 images with different lighting. So you won't even, if there's a fan going, you won't even see the hair move. But it's completely different lighting for every frame that was taken.
Interesting.
This is how, yeah, this is how nerdy I am in photography, and like this is something that I haven't fully advertised yet. I
Hmm.
posted a few in my Instagram about it. I did one big commercial shoot, no, editorial shoot in summer last year when I did this, and the art director's mind just exploded. We had a lot of challenges in our shoot. Number one, in the beginning, it has to be three base or three station,
Hmm.
and then it got cut down because of the space. We don't have three station anymore, so we only have one. And I only found out 2 days before the shoot. So I said, okay, no problem, we can still do it. So we packed. I think we put like 128 lights in it. And when I click it, you just see the light rotate, and then
Wow.
the art director saw it, and I was like how are you doing that? Of course, I wouldn't tell him how I'm doing it.
Yeah.
No one has done it yet. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, and then I think that's one of the reasons why this particular company keeps hiring me, because it's something that no one else, or at least they haven't seen anyone else done it.
Mm.
Maybe I should turn it into an NFT. Now I'm getting some ideas. Um, yeah, it's because there was a trick before where we called what's the name of it? The moving pictures, cinematograph,
Yeah.
where the hair, for example, is moving, but the lighting is the same, or
Hmm.
the background is moving, or like when you're pouring water. And anyway, this is different. This is nothing else is moving but the light.
But the light.
Post production wise as well, they can, for example, my one light is just this side, my other light is just the back, and I have one light in here, and it's all different shot. Post
Yeah.
production wise as well, they can combine all three and create a well lit
Oh,
image.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, the possibility is endless.
Yeah. No, it's interesting too because it's like what I'm thinking in my mind is when the Matrix came up with their rotating one, but then it's like
Yeah,
your way is the camera stays and then it's like the light does that's fascinating. That's really
yeah,
cool. Cause
yeah.
so with that now where it's just like I guess you kind of explained it where it's like you see different possibilities of like creating an NFT or whatever, but it's like how do you then as an artist as a photographer kind of coin that because you said you haven't seen it done before, so then how do you go about establishing that this is a Noah thing?
Oh man, honestly, I don't know the answer to that. Even
Mm,
marketing this is quite hard to convince client to do it,
yeah.
because of the cost that comes with it. Like this particular shoot, the equipment cost itself is about 20 grand per
Mm,
day. We did it. Oh no, this shoot is only one day, so it's quite hard to market this because of the cost, because people don't understand how it works, and it
Mm.
requires a big space. But when done right, when there's a budget, the client understands what the potential for them is,
Yeah.
then it becomes a really valuable asset to do. But I don't see a lot of clients being able to do this because of the affordability.
Hmm. Hmm.
And how do I coin it? I honestly don't know. So
Is there
I
any way to kind of start with a low price until it gets established and then hike the price, or is it just not cost efficient to do that?
It's not just the
Oh,
problem. It's not my rate that's a problem. It's the rental rate. It's the equipment that we need to make it happen.
mm,
I've done it in my small shoots, for example. Like I did one shoot with Hiro Kanagawa.
mhm,
You probably know him. He's a local actor here, where I did that lighting technique, and it's a lot scaled down to compared to what I would like it to be,
yeah,
and it worked out. He loves the shot, and then I animated a few shots just to show people what can be done with it, and it's probably something
yeah,
that I should do more these days.
mhm,
Um, yeah, and this is a technique that I learned because I was bored during the pandemic, and I wanted to create something new, and I knew it was possible. This it's just one of the challenges I have. For example, when I do portrait studios for film festival, I always have to follow what the art director wants.
mm, okay,
But sometimes I don't, or even whatever shoots it is. Like for example, a client would come, and again, I was trying to push more for my style, but the style the client wants is not something that I want. But we have very limited time, so in my head, it's like, how can I create a lighting system where I can get what they want, but I can also get what I want without
mm,
consuming more time. And that's kind of how I developed this new technique. Yeah, so maybe I should do it more. Oh,
yeah.
I
Oh,
think I
that's
should do it
interesting.
more. Yeah.
I just had
Thank,
a thought where
yeah,
it's
thanks for
like,
reminding me. I go
yeah, go back to your marketing side, figure that shit out. But
right.
I can't remember what the name of him is, but he does like this thing on the red carpets where it's kind of like that
Oh yeah,
super
cool.
slow-mo photography thing. So he has this entire setup where the
Yeah,
camera's on an arm and it just swings in.
yeah.
So
With the
it's like,
arm, the robot arm.
yeah. So it's like I think that would be this. Um
That's what you were saying.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, with that, like I guess we should wrap it up. I've kept you for far too long.
Yes.
I'm super grateful for the time that you gave me.
Oh,
And
thanks for your time as well.
yeah, no, I feel like there's another episode that we can do for sure. Like there's so much more that you have to share about photography, and I hope to dive into
I
that
like to
sometime in the
talk. I
future.
know that.
But last question. Um, what is fine art?
Oh, bro, I have no idea.
Because it's
I'm
like
not. Yeah.
you went to school for it, so you can't say I'm not whatever. No, you went to school for it. So it's like
Oh yeah,
w-
I didn't listen either, so
um
I don't know how I passed. So
so like with what you're doing now with photography and with the caliber that you're rising to and the style that you're doing, would you consider your product fine art?
where I am at the moment, I would say no.
Okay.
My I did the person Although I did this personal work that I did recent few months ago, where you see my website. It's in my personal work where it's inspired by Greek sculpture.
Mm,
That one I could probably put more into fine art. If I were to define fine art or art in, I guess art is different than fine art. I guess I think fine art for me is something that intrigues the audience. It could be something disturbing or something peaceful. Um, I don't know per se if it has to come with a price, or can it be free.
so when you say
Um,
it has to like make people feel or like entice or whatever, like are
yeah,
movies then considered fine art?
and this is my own definition of fine art.
Yeah,
So by
yeah,
no
please.
means this is correct. I I would put. I love Marvel films, but
Mhm.
from what I've seen, I would put them more in what I would classify as a commercial art, which
Hmm.
is it's just for enjoyment. This after I watch it, there's nothing really, most at least for the most part, there's nothing really left for me to contemplate aside from how good it felt or what's gonna happen next. But if I look at a movie, for example, like uh, people might not see the same thing. The Sunset, the After trilogy.
Oh, I love that.
Uh, yeah,
Before
me too.
sunset, after
I
sunset. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that for me, I would consider as fine art, especially the last. What's the last one? After midnight or before? Anyway,
Yeah.
before midnight. So the last part, especially the scene where they were in the dining table,
Yeah.
and they were just chatting, and it was very organic and back and forth.
Yeah.
For me, at least for me, that scene itself is fine art. I remember because for me,
Hmm.
it triggers my emotion back when I was growing up, where we were in the dining table and nothing else mattered but the conversation or the time you're spending with family and how organic the conversation is. That everyone was throwing their opinion at the table. You might disagree with it, but you're not fighting. And then after that, it's like everything's great. So that maybe for me is how I would classify as more of a fine art film, maybe. Um,
Because for
or
in
some,
my
yeah,
opinion, with when it comes to film, where I would classify that series as like an indie trilogy, and then
yeah,
I
yeah,
wouldn't consider indie as fine.
fine art. Yeah, you would probably put more of like an A24 film as fine art.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, not at least for me. It has for me a fine art is something that's that steers an emotion. Although most film does. I don't know how to explain this. I'm definitely burning my own self in
No,
here.
but it's fascinating where it's like nobody really has that definition of what fine art
Yeah,
is, and all I associate with fine art is an exorbitant dollar value, where
yeah,
it can only be fine
and
art if it's being auctioned at, in the hundred thousands or something.
yeah. But we would look at, for example, Banksy, and I'm
Hmm.
gonna get roasted for not knowing the artist's name here. But yeah, who like to make graffiti, for example,
Yeah.
that it's not Mona Lisa, for example, but someone might saw it as a fine art piece because it's him who did it. So is it actually? So my question is, does it actually tie into price? I mean, yes, its work is expensive. I personally am not. I like his work, but I would never, even if I have money, I would not buy it because it's not my style.
Right.
But what I like, for example, is Girl with a Pearl Earring.
Love that one.
The Mona Lisa, for example. And one thing I really like about Mona Lisa, and I think this comes with a lot of my inspiration in how I shoot, is because of the subtlety of Mona Lisa. Like there's a big controversy about it before. Like, is she smiling? Is she not smiling? And it's something that I really like in a portrait. Like it could, it's an essence of Mona Lisa, but can be interpreted in multiple ways, and it keeps you lingering in your head. Like for me, the girl with the pearl earring, for example, I have a lot of questions. Like, and I know this answers if I Google internet. Like, how old is the girl? What was she doing? What was her profession? Because at the time, because she looks like, to me, she kind of looks like a servant at the time. But
Right.
why was she painted if she was a servant, and why does she own an earring?
Hmm.
Um,
And
yeah.
pearls,
Anyway,
correct?
just yeah. So those are kind of like the questions um, that I have in mind, in what I would classify as the fine art.
Hmm.
Like NFT, for example, is there. I still don't understand NFT, so I can't say if I can classify it as a fine art. It depends on what is selling, I guess. Um,
It's
but
selling
pulp
in the millions. Holy shit.
yeah, but the frames for Pulp Fiction, for example,
Hmm.
for me, that I think I would consider that as fine art because it was culturally attached to our generation. That
Yeah.
it steers an emotion when you see it. But yeah. Anyway,
Interesting. No, yeah, it's definitely a longing question of mine because there's so many, I guess, definitions of, first of all, what art is, let alone the subjectiveness of who gets to define it as fine. and I find that really fascinating because art in itself, art is art, and
Yeah.
it puts it into I guess a colonial standard when you define it
Yeah.
as fine, where it's like, who are you to define it? Who gave you the authority to define this as fine? So I'm very
Yeah.
fascinated at just that whole culture of people within the fine art realm. But yeah, no,
Bro.
that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fair. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your time, man.
Yeah,
Thanks for all the good
likewise.
questions that I haven't thought about for a while. So,
And hopefully we can have you back and ask some more questions. But also wanted to just put this on the record. We definitely need to hit up that Filipino restaurant when I get back.
oh, bro, I just moved to Commercial Drive, and there's a better Filipino restaurant there.
Which one?
It's called Culinaria.
Oh, I took my friends there on my birthday one
Yeah.
year, and then I introduced them to the culture of Kamayan, and they were like, "This is so cool!" And they're just
Oh,
eating it.
yes. Yeah, dude.
So
Yeah, hit me up. Hit me up when you're back. We should do it. Oh,
nice.
and Jollibee's in downtown now, so
Oh, how is it? How's it doing? Is there a lineup?
oh man, I never thought I would be the person to go in line. Um, there's a long line. It's like almost like a whole block lining
Wow.
up. It's still, and it's funny because I was going home and I was like, oh, I'm gonna pop by Jollibee. There's probably no line anymore. I got there and it told me it's like half an hour and an hour and a half. I was like, ah, it's fine. It's probably just half an hour. But I stood there for an hour and a half and I waited.
That's so fun, man. Like I'm so proud of that entire chain and that entire franchise because it's like,
Oh,
and there was an article that
yeah,
came out too where they opened a store in Barcelona, and it's like,
yeah,
and then after that there was a Filipina artist within the fine art world where she had an exhibition about Filipino culture in Spain, and it's like this is how Philippines takes power back, one
yeah,
one act at a time.
yeah. One
uh,
chicken joy at a time.
you know what I mean? But again, thank you so much for coming out. And
Yeah,
yeah, I definitely hope to reconnect when I get back up there.
yeah, definitely, definitely. All right, well, thanks, man. Stay safe and
Yeah,
keep us posted where you are.
no, for sure. But yeah, other than
All right,
that, 2 Degrees
see you, brother.
podcast brought to you by the Play On Foundation. We got Noah and such a fucking brilliant mind when it comes to the world of photography. So follow him, links in the description. And if you need your wedding photographed, he's your guy because he he's got a
Definitely.
camera. It's he's got the equipment for it.
That's right.
But other than that, everybody stay safe and mag-ingat kayo.